Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Bradley Bowman. He is from the Center on Military and Political Power, the FDD. Brad, I just want to delve a little bit deeper into the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I think you've made the point that this really has been a testing ground for new drone technology. Just sort of walk us through that in a little bit more detail, how this is affecting the conflict and who's winning, who's losing as a result of the drone technology.
Absolutely. So the first phase of the what I would call Putin's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, featured the drive largely to go after the capital, Kyiv, and that was largely consist of large convoys of armored personnel carriers and tanks getting stuck on roads, and those convoys were sitting ducks, if you will, for airstrikes. And because the Russians, surprisingly for many, were unable to establish air superiority in Ukraine, because for a lot of reasons, including the great work of the Ukrainians, Ukrainians were able to use, in some cases, the drones, including the TV-2 drones that I mentioned earlier that they received from Turkey, to strike some of these convoys that were sitting for days or weeks on these roads coming from the north. And so that was extraordinarily effective. And in some cases, if you're trying to stop a Russian offensive and it's going to cross a river with a bridge on it, by taking out that river, obviously you can slow that convoy down. So some of that can be conducted with ground-to-ground artillery strikes. Some can be conducted by manned aircraft, and the Ukrainians thankfully still have some of those. And some of those can be conducted by drones. And so we've really seen, kind of across the board, but including with drones, we've seen the Ukrainian armed forces operate in an agile, innovative, creative way that's been quite impressive to behold, honestly.
Probably a lot of lessons being learned right there. Do you expect even more advanced drone weaponry being deployed by Russia and or Ukraine?
Yes, I think anyone looking at what's happened in Ukraine, anyone considering the facts that I've been laying out, anyone looking at the war in Nagorno-Karabakh a few years ago, where drones played a very leading role in the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, what can come away, I think, dare I say, with only one conclusion, is that you want drones, you want a lot of them, and you want them fast. And so I think anyone who has concerns for any nation state that has concerns for its security is already moving aggressively in that direction. And there's lots of people around the world who are standing ready to provide them. And so our children and grandchildren are going to confront this threat. And as far as I'm concerned, we want the good guys to have better capabilities than the bad guys, so we can deter war and, if necessary, win it.
As we're speaking, of course, President Biden is on his way to his Middle Eastern trip, including Saudi Arabia. There are reports that the Iranians are willing to sell their advanced drone technology to Russia. Is this something that you're concerned about as well?
It is. And to me, that's a very tangible example of a larger grand strategic trend that I've been observing and been publishing a bit about. A lot of times when Americans, perhaps Canadians, think about great power competition, a term we throw around a lot, meaning, at least from a Washington, D.C. perspective, China and Russia and the competition with them, we think, hey, that competition with China happens in the Indo-Pacific, and that competition with Russia happens in Europe. Well, of course, those are the centers of those competition for those respective adversaries, I would call them. But the truth is, so is the Middle East. And frankly, if the United States military pulls up stakes completely from the Middle East, among those happily waving goodbye will be Russia, who has been there for many, many years, and also increasingly China. China, a lot of your viewers might say China. Well, absolutely. Last year, Iran and China signed a 25-year security agreement that included, among other things, technology transfer that relates to our drone conversation, military exercises, and more. And so we know that Iran, frankly, the Islamic Republic of Iran, in my view, is eager to kind of stick it to the West wherever they can, and supplying drones to Russia evidently is a way they perceive that they can do that. So, there are important differences, of course, between Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush here. But to some degree, we see China and Russia closer than they've been since the 1950s. The U.S. intelligence community said that a few years ago. And we see Iran, China, and Russia conducting trilateral military exercises. So there's much to be concerned about. We have finite resources. We have to prioritize and mitigate risk. But the reality, whether we like it or not, is that our adversaries and potential adversaries are working together more than ever.
Bradley Bowman is the Senior Director, Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. We're going to continue this very interesting conversation about drones and drone warfare after the break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.